Okay, Duvid here. We are live with the Horde World Championship Finals between Horus and hod-konem. And because it's a double knockout, should Hode win this match, there will be another grand finals. But in the preliminary leading up to this, Hode was defeated by Horus 6-4. So just to refresh people, the bracket, let's put the link in the chat. So you can see Horus had beat Hode 6-4 in the lead up, and then beat Matvey, and now is in the grand finals with Hode, who worked his way back through in the losers bracket. So after Hode was eliminated, he had quite a few matches, but prevailed over T.A. Anderson, Dennis, and then Matvey. And Matvey was going to join me for this, but was not able to. So here is a study, Matvey with analysis, any new player learning the game. Good way to go over these games, and you can see some of the analysis of the first match. And okay, so they are, looks like they're going to start any second. So here's my YouTube playlist of previous year commentary going back to 2020. I don't know, every year, some years I have more than others. I have an interview with More Chess, who possibly will be joining me to add commentary, as Matvey was unable to do it at this time. So let me just see if my streaming is showing up on my profile, if I got the golden mic, and because it looks like, yes, they have started. So let me just see if, okay, so it has me streaming. I'm here with live commentary, and I'm using two computers, so I will be able to use arrows. The first match, Hode comes with 5, so it looks like we do have more chess here. So
hi, David. Can you hear me all right?
Yes, we hear you all right. There's just a handful of people watching, but for the record books, this is Rune, Moore, one of the top players in the United States, well known to top Horde players that will be joining for commentary, as he's been on my channel before, but will be able to give more insight or knowledge. He's at a higher competitive level than me. So any comments on the opening shows so far? This is a common strategy we've had before. I guess the crab variation possible if going the knight. This is, I think I've played this for white and black. And isn't this the same opening that they were competing against each other in the first lead up to this that Horus won?
Honestly, I don't remember seeing this position in Horus versus Konem, but I want to say that I saw it in Horus versus Matvey, but I'm not sure. But
yeah, I mean,
regarding the opening,
they're going for knight g6 here, which is a well-known line. I think you dubbed like the crab, although they didn't go into the crab. However, this one he took on d4, which thins the d file to just 2 pawns, and so the exact position. But this is a semi-well-known variation of an opening where you get the 2 pawns on the d file, and I call it about equal, even chances from what I assess.
well, I think white is actually close to winning, just because in the opening, I think move 6, g takes f6 is strange for black unless he prepares something. But now we've created, I guess, a homostasis where it's like I don't see much venom or fire for black.
Yeah, I spoke too quickly when mentioned, because I didn't think of the consequence of playing g takes f6, which usually would not be played. So I was thinking of a similar variation without that pawn trade. But yes, that pawn trade does seem to favor white quite a bit. So
Yeah.
I guess we will have the breakthrough here. The you think white is just winning here, or does black still have some chances and he is getting behind the pawns?
Well, I think right now it's unclear. Maybe on like I wouldn't play like move 20 b5, like not because it allows the infiltration, but because white is a little underdeveloped. So I'm not sure. I think it's unclear. Maybe it's a draw with perfect play, because like a lot of dynamically balanced positions are usually draws.
Yeah, and just because we jumped straight into the finals, Hode has been playing for a long time. I think however long I've been playing, he's always been near the top. Although
Right.
I think this is his first time making a finals, and I've always considered him like a second tier behind. I mean, obviously Mindhunter, possibly from the best ever, but players who had reached the 2700 level, where Hode seemed to always be in the 2500. Although Horde coach, who was also similar to that, had won the world championship, and you've beat him in matches in the past, but you've actually put him at a favorite, and obviously in the lead upcoming year, Horace had won the stick four. But just speaking to you earlier, you actually thought Hode was a slight favorite.
Absolutely, because of pendulum swing concept. Like, if technique is roughly equal, then it's basically boils down to a mixture of opening preparation and meta game strategy. And both Horus and Conum are excellent at both of those things. And so I think that the fact that Conum lost the first match to Horus, it means that Conum will adapt before Horus has the opportunity to adapt.
Yeah, and this is looking very winning for white. I mean, there might
Yeah.
just even if he didn't have these three pawns, it would look good, but playable. I mean, maybe now with some clarity, there is some play defensive possibilities.
Yeah,
You know,
it's not so clear, I guess.
Horace sometimes underperforms in arenas, compared to being the world champion, but excels in opening prep. Hode also very sharp in his, very prepared in his openings. Um, Not sure if you think Horace just made a mistake on his prep with that move six, G takes f6.
Yeah, it's likely like it's a preparation for a similar but slightly different position, and since it's concrete, it just didn't work this time.
Yeah, as an opposed to Matvey, where Hode was getting a very strong lead on the clock basically every game. Horace
Yeah,
had the lead.
yeah, it's interesting. I guess. Yeah, I don't know why hod-konem is moving slow in this match when he moved really fast against Matvey, but on the other hand, maybe maybe I don't know. It's hard to explain, honestly.
Yeah, maybe Horace is coming back here like this. I'd still probably favor white, but there is some chances that at this point it's defendable.
Yeah, somehow I think black is actually winning. I mean, there's Queen A1. Oh, I probably shouldn't have said that because I don't know if like people watch this and can cheat, but Queen A1 would just be winning for black, I think. But he played
Yeah,
Queen
although this,
H1.
yeah, this should clearly be winning now after just taking.
Yeah.
I mean, there might be some minor drawing chances. I don't even think so with like this, not being able to take all the H pawns.
Yeah,
Although
this
Horde
looks.
might have cracked under the time pressure because he probably, like you said, looked at some point like he was uh, substantially ahead or even winning.
Yeah, absolutely.
Just pick up with this GFF6.
Oh, so E5, E6, F6, H6.
So
That's what Horus plays a lot. And I don't know. I don't know, honestly. I thought he played this, but Conem is playing it against Horus.
okay, so here, yeah, Hode. I never had a great defense to these openings. It was like H6, and he seemed to almost always break through and have enough time to you thwart any queenside attack when he played these openings. So, but I mean, he's been playing these openings for years, and I assume Horus has some sort of preparation.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, the point of move to H6 is to prepare D6 without allowing white to play H5. If white would play H5, then G5 would drop. So H6 is about preparing D6. Okay, standard.
Yes, I'm not sure. It doesn't look like there's going to be a breakthrough on the H file. However,
Yeah, but
you might not need one, so to say, or even just the weakness on E5 could be.
yeah, I think if you can clear the center, if black can clear the center, then black is better just because uh, there will be a central breakthrough later.
So he takes on F6. And I'm not sure, does he play F3? Okay, he doesn't sack on G4. And
He
I mean,
wants like Knight of Fate, I think. Yeah, Knight of Fate. Knight HF8.
okay, I mean, that may have been sufficient, but I guess he didn't deem it
Uh-huh. And now,
necessary. I mean,
now
really,
there's already threat for black. Like knight takes F4, rook takes H3. Oh, did Horus miss it? I think he missed it. He can play knight F4, or he can play rook H3, I guess. But no, I probably shouldn't be saying moves because if they're listening, they can cheat. I don't know if they're listening, but sorry about that.
yeah, I'm not sure if they're, I mean, for the officialness, it's low standards here. Like, this is the organization. I'm just thinking the idea is like, yeah, this tactic, and then the queen's going to come to H6 with the double up on
Yeah.
the knight on F4, and that should lead to forced penetration.
Yeah.
Although white does have a reasonably advanced queen side and a strong center, it's possible there's enough compensation with a queen side attack, although You think it favors black, although I'd say there's still some chance of a king side. So he takes knight f4 right away before queen h6.
Yeah, I guess because it stops g2, like knight f4, g2, knight takes h3.
Yeah, it's more forcing to do the knight f4 first.
Absolutely. Yeah, so I think it's winning for black because you can actually sack the knight on d7 if you need to. And then you can castle queenside. Although there is some pressure on the king side in the foreseeable future, but I don't know.
Well, it's not over, and Hode this time has a substantial time advantage. So the first game, however, Horus got ahead on the clock. That's not the case. So Hode has plenty of time, and but obviously it's not over. I guess for Horde, this would be the point from transitioning to the middle to the end game. Kind of the opening, the middle game is kind of figuring out whether the queen is going to penetrate and start eating the pawns up, and you have what it's going to be like here, a queenside attack versus the remaining pieces. For the end game, near the culmination of what's going to happen. So here we're approaching the end game, and there's still play. Because those pawns could move quickly. 3 pawns on the 6th rank often could be winning against a king and a rook.
Yeah, definitely. Here, I'm getting pretty nervous about black's position, but I guess if he can castle, it's fine.
Or, in his match against Matvey, where he was up on the clock almost every game, you have to question whether it was a good strategy to push for time pressure. To keep the pressure on the clock as opposed to using his time.
Right.
So,
okay, I guess black is winning. I mean, because the center will get destroyed. Can he do
take on d6 right now? It may be premature, but if he doesn't take on d6, I mean, he's probably better getting out of the way. Okay, that might even be a superior method.
although he does have e7, but he does take the rook. Okay.
I mean,
Interesting.
not really. And then
Yeah, it's not so clear. I guess. Okay, I guess black is winning because the queen is like really strong. I think just king c6, king d7 shuffle. Something like that. Or maybe, I don't know. King should probably be back on c8 actually. Okay, so looks like Conem won.
okay, so we're into the third game. Black has won both games, and Hode opens up with the a5 move 1. I mean, I doubt Horus was going to play rook shuffle, but a5 could be played for multiple reasons, as Horus does play a lot of a5 openings. I'm not sure if he's going to go straight into a holding pattern, a dark squared holding pattern.
Yeah, I mean, a5 can be played just to keep the center flexible, but honestly, like, I think a5 is like inferior to d5 or c5, basically.
I think according to the engine, these positions are basically winning for black. Although, there is some playing potential, and I'm not sure. Okay, he proactively traded off his pawns, and just the general concept is, in order to break through, you could sack a piece for a pawn or two, and as long as you sack 2 or 3 pieces in the same part of the board, you're eventually going to break through, and then you can start eating the pawns from behind. However, you need to sack the pieces in the same part of the board because you need to break through. It takes sacking 2 or 3 pieces in the same part of the board. So for a holding strategy, basically black wants to zugzwang white into moving forward and eventually having to create a open file that the queen could get behind and start eating pawns. And white obviously does not want to allow an open file to be created. In order to do that, white has to probe around on all sides of the board, where black would just prefer white to just try for one place of the board and create the open file and penetrate. White will try to probe around and force the sacrifices on different parts of the board so there'll be no penetration. At this point, you can see the D file is down to 2 pawns, and black still has the C pawn. So here,
I mean,
good
thinning down the center.
file.
Sorry.
You just finished the pawn and hand it over to you. That here the simplest strategy for black is to try to force open the D file and bring the queen around and start eating the pawns, which white has to try to figure something out, which might be a kingside or just allowing and some endgame push, hoping that somehow the pawns could force a win. And any insight that Rune has, you're probably more technically knowledgeable in these type positions than me.
Well, like in the late opening or early middle game, black just attacks the center to create a better fortress because, there's just no infiltration or anything, so it's just about the center. And then once the center is cleared out, like it kind of is, black can start trying to hold down and keep the fortress.
The G5,
here,
for example, could be a lead-in to play. I mean, obviously the move that makes the most sense is E5, but it's probably too dangerous. Thins the D file down to just 1 pawn. As where maybe if you play G5 first and get rid of the F pawn, then you could safely play E5. Or okay, so as mentioned, that was the most logical move in order to try to enable E5 and to get the pawns rolling on the king side. So there's still play left in this game. Maybe it's a small advantage to a small
I
advantage.
prefer black.
Yeah, I would say a small advantage to black, although there's still play left in the game. And probably the queen come back this way to defend the pawn. It is the E7.
Yeah, I guess, white has no space, so I think black should be able to win. Like, if he can play a rook on an E file, then black would be winning. But
I mean,
yeah,
somehow
not so
if white
clear.
could roll the kingside pawns down the board and get some sort of play, white could still be in the game. And can black, just with the queen and rook, prevent the pawns from rolling? And the answer is probably yes. And even at some point, the H file is likely to be opened up. So at this point,
Oh, I think
it was an interesting decision.
Horus missed rook h4. It was rook h4 because
We're here.
Yes, or after CD4, ED4. Yeah, rook H4.
Who's here? Is that
Because the knight can come to C7, and there's like a way for the knight to force a breakthrough. But he
Yeah,
goes knight C7 first.
yeah, it may not be necessary that. Well, I mean, might as well at this point. You just expand for E4 and prepare for the queenside attack.
Right. Queen A5, that's interesting. Yeah.
And if you look, these 4 pawns could still advance.
Yeah.
And these pawns, like they say, I was mentioning leading up, like these pawns to get up 2-3 squares on the board takes 6-8 moves. So just queen over, opening up. These pawns are not advanced. Just moving them up the board takes quite a bit of time. Although, like I mentioned a few games ago, 3 pawns on the 6th rank are often better than a rook. So, these pawns getting to the 6th rank could happen quickly, and the queen is probably in time to defend. I definitely like black here. Then you look at the time Horus has. Pulled ahead on the clock. Although there's still play left in the game. I could be wrong. White could even be to the advantage here.
Yeah, I think looks better for white, personally.
And I'm not sure the strategy, if it's got to run the H pawn to sacrifice it, or if he could make progress on the queen side. Because
I was thinking like H3, H4. Okay, I don't know what this is.
Oh, he just puts that pawn away. Like,
It looks okay, I guess.
the white's down to just a few seconds, but if
Yeah.
if he could get like these 3 pawns for the rook, he's probably winning.
Yeah.
Even here, he could probably just take even, although maybe not, because he's got to stop D6. Okay, so now
Yeah,
he
it's...
can take, and this should just be winning now.
Yeah, I think white messed up somewhere.
Yeah, we could look over these games or see if Horus or Hode wants to join after and go over some of these games.
Yeah, absolutely.
And actually, Matvey had talked about doing like a recap stream or highlights from the finals, if you're interested in that also.
Yeah, it sounds great.
So far, we have 3 games, 3 black wins. All of them have been close. So where there were still chances on both sides all the way into the end game.
Ooh, you're playing this opening. That's interesting. It's a very sharp opening.
Where you can get the crab?
Yeah, I guess. Oh, D5. I did not expect D5. Normally they play F6, knight G6, F5, or F6, knight G6, A4. Yeah, we'll see what happens here, I guess. And think...
You can have the aggressive knight G6
Yeah.
of the common opening on the queen side.
Yeah, because Conan's like a very standard player. He's a very natural player, and knight g6 is like the natural move. But I prefer just bishop c8 and build a fortress. I guess he's thinking about it, right? Because
It seems aggressive. This isn't the
kind of,
type of opening that Hode usually plays. Maybe after his last game he switched it up. Like the game he played, the second game is more common.
yeah.
Like, does Matt play this for black? I mean, so this is a well-known common opening for.
It's, well, actually, I think black is already winning. I think there was a mess up somewhere. Ooh, knight d7. I love knight d7. It's a great move because you can also castle. I think white's mistake was probably h5 on move 10 because I never saw this bishop e4 move in my life, but it just looks so strong because you get knight e5 next thing, and then there's so many weaknesses in the center. So, I don't know. Okay. And what's the plan for black? Is it like knight f6? Is it f5 maybe? I like f5.
Yeah, at the end of the day, white is still likely to get a queenside attack.
Yeah.
And you would have
Yeah,
thought,
but black has a c pawn, so it's safe, usually.
you would have thought he would have been able to break through, but maybe now he's just going to try to thin out the e file and not force a breakthrough.
Right. Okay, so I like f6. I mean f5. Looks
And you
great.
could still force a breakthrough.
He can, but that's just neglecting the center.
It's probably unnecessary.
Yeah.
And the e file. At this point, is it even better to?
So now c6 is under trouble, so they trade. And now this looks really good for black. I think even rook b5 is possible, but I would play like c6, I think. Yeah, c6, yeah.
You can never really push c4 because the rook could take the pawn, then the queen penetrates,
Yes.
and so just the a and b pawns. I mean, even if he eventually tries here, the rook would just retreat, and yeah, looks GG here.
Yeah, it does.
He doesn't need to leave the queen on the e file for. Yeah, so now he could really just leave the queen there. The black
Well,
doesn't need to do anything here to win. I mean, maybe a little bit of thought. I don't really see how white can make any progress, and at some point is going to lose on d4. But let's see what he tries.
yeah, it's black has to kind of hold down the position, but in a remarkable way, I guess. I mean, partially because the center is weak. I mean, that's the main reason.
Or
And just as a heads up, my headphones are 10% battery, so they might die soon, like in 20 minutes or something, I'm guessing.
just for this, the purpose of the headphones is so that the speaker doesn't feed back into the microphone, causing the echo. I mean, any
Right.
headphones so that your speaker doesn't feed back into the audio, else the echo could make it unbearable.
Yeah, that's fair. Oh, so he wants rook b5, I guess. Personally, I wouldn't play that, but it's interesting.
It didn't seem necessary. It's not as conclusive.
Oh wow, that's actually
Now I
really
think
nice.
you thought that's nice for black. I thought it unnecessary to give
Yeah, yeah,
pointers. And he
yeah,
still
but
gets the
I think
breakthrough.
yeah, I think white should have taken the rook. Yeah, it's
The black
looking good for black.
could have just waited. Although the pawns on the rook could come quickly. So
Yeah, not so clear. Actually, it is. I think black is clearly winning, but I don't know why I said that. I'm sorry. It is clear. Maybe I just meant that my instincts make me nervous a little bit.
yeah, I mean, there's still some tricks left. Although that's about it.
Yeah, now rook f8, and now white is just gonna get chipped away. Yeah, that rook is extremely well placed. My microphone died. I don't know if you can still hear me.
Yeah, I hear you fine. But now
Does
I
it have like a bad echo?
now I have the echo.
I'm sorry about that. Uh, I don't have a good fix right now. Can I?
If you have
Let's see.
another pair of headphones, I mean, doesn't
Not really.
anyone or the only real other choice is just to mute when you're not talking, and then when you want to
Yeah.
say something, 'cause anytime if you're not muted when I say something, it's going to echo. So just when you want to say something, on mute, and then when you're done talking, mute.
Yeah, that sounds good. I'll just mute and unmute. That works.
Okay, yeah, sure, no problem. And your streaming takes a little technical preparation or investment into equipment that, unless you really are into streaming, you're unlikely to have made. Okay, so Horace going for a different strategy this game. Last time he did the dark square holding pattern. This time he's doing a light square holding pattern. I mean, I think according to the engine, all of these should be advantageous, maybe winning for black. However, it leaves quite a bit of play and strategy and possibilities, for the game. So, the other game was pretty exciting. We'll see how exciting this game gets. I'm not sure if you have any thoughts on Horace. Kind of, is this goofing off, playing around to do these black openings, the black dark square then white square holding pattern?
It's probably just trying to hide like really like I think he's playing kind of boring old openings just to hide some preparation for the grand final, just in case he would lose. But I don't know because I mean,
Well, this
uh,
looks like the trap he
I,
fell into, though.
Oh yeah, Conem let black play rook a3.
Did he have to do that, or was that just a error? I guess he was able to push b6, although I can't imagine, that holding this. It just looks like a devastating blunder.
Yeah, something went really wrong. Yeah.
Pour myself a tea. Yeah, not much fireworks, so to say, in your Horde. For there's been no rook shuffle. There's been no real push for an immediate breakthrough. None of the games have had like an immediate breakthrough on the A or H file. If there was a breakthrough, like on the H file, it came after close to 20 moves. So these games are very complicated to understand outside the top Horde players, because there's these holding patterns, color complexes, even hard to articulate the strategy that's being employed. Although in this case, I mean, presumably white could have did something with the king side in the center, and eventually might have had to do that anyways, or maybe could have prevented it. But this just led to a relatively early enough to be decisive breakthrough, although there is some play. But black still has 2 knights, and likely the queen will at least get to g1. Okay, he decides to eat these pawns up and sack the knight. I mean, he could have tried to get to g1 and then eaten the pawns from the chain, but because he has the knight, he could just eat these pawns and sack the knight, and likely all you're going to have is the H through E files, and with the rook and the knight should be easily, clearly winning for black. But let's see if Hode could at least try to throw some tricks in there, make it difficult for Horus.
Yeah, I thought c4 was clever because it invites queen takes e4, which looks bad for black.
Okay, so I predicted that he was going to be able to clear everything but the E file, but Hode maintains his D pawn, which could actually be significant, especially in terms of
true.
If he didn't maintain the D pawn, the queen could probably just went behind and eaten. I'd still say it's very likely to be easily winning for black, but that is significant. He was able to maintain that D pawn. There's an immediate attack on g6, and so he trades it all off. Does he sack the knight right away? I mean, so there's definitely some tricks and possibilities in play with the D pawn. I mean, sometimes even without the D pawn, there could be some play. I mean, Horus has a full minute to think, so he might as well use it. And does he want to strategically place the queen somewhere to hinder the pawns advancing, or does he just want to start gobbling? And you might as well use the time right now. If this is winning, calculate it, because often when gobbling the pawns, like the sooner the better. Like eventually you're going to start gobbling the pawns, and you moving around strategically, trying to zugzwang or something. Often you just want to start gobbling right away. So queen could try to be back this way, or could, yeah, it was probably too dangerous to take on h1, although it could come this way. And e4 could be a little bit dangerous. The queen right now is preventing. Okay, so he allows. Oh, it's a little bit dangerous.
Yeah, I think Conem is just winning.
Yeah, the queen h4 was a little bit dangerous. I mean, he may have been able to just keep the queen. I mean, he may have just been able to play queen f4 and it was winning. But he didn't. He took on h4, and then even here, like I might have preferred king f8, or because now you have this forced check coming. Although it still could be winning for black because this pawn's going to fall.
Yeah, but there's no, there's just d6, king f8, d7, king e7, f6, and it's winning for white.
No, because then he could take on e6 and the rook covers.
Oh, you're right. I'm sorry. Yeah, you're right.
Yes, I think it's still. I mean, there might still be a trick like that, but I think it's winning for black because this pawn's going. And like I said, you're almost. What you said was correct, but like because it would just be the f in d file and e6 falls, it's all over.
Yeah, maybe.
Almost definitely has to take here. We could preemptively just try coming back even, although maybe or up. Okay, that's also an interesting idea of moving the rook out of the way. Okay, just a few seconds on the
Yeah,
clock.
the king can go back to f8, yeah.
And the rook can come this way. Okay, we got some excitement. I think Boris could change the tide of the event if Horde wins this with white. Yeah,
I guess h4 would be better. Wow.
Well, he won. It's over.
Yeah.
I mean, if he didn't
Wow,
take
that was really close.
Yeah, there's multiple moves that were winning, but in the time crunch, Horace falls behind.
Yeah.
Rune takes the 3-2 lead. Now Horace must win with his white.
That's yeah, I did not expect that, honestly.
He got into the time trouble and he blundered in the endgame. Yeah, unfortunate. Okay, so Hode back to his normal opening that he played. Okay, so yeah, but I never really understood. Like, I'd be playing Hode like this, and I really just couldn't figure out exactly what he was trying to do. And often, somehow I would just be losing. It'd be too late. Like, all of a sudden, he would have a breakthrough, or I would be too thinned out in one area. Although sometimes the games, took a while for an advantage to accumulate. And there's some flexibility. So, like the stronger players with these black openings, the point is flexibility. So even like the Masters 2400 level players, often they just have openings, they have ideas, something they're going for, as opposed to the highest level, like the World Championship caliber level. They want more flexibility and to have multiple different possibilities to switch back between various ideas, as opposed to someone at my lower caliber who basically just has a few ideas that I'm going for, and if those ideas don't work out, uh, then the initiative switches to my opponent. Although it makes it more difficult to comment or to understand what's going on. So because the weak point on C3, it's still not clear there's a breakthrough here. I'm not sure how to assess this. It could be white is okay here, that black's breakthrough attempt has failed, and with just the two pieces, white will get a sufficient kingside attack. He almost definitely has to take. I mean, there could be a breakthrough eventually with the queen and bishop. So this does look good for black, although the kingside attack is coming quick. The bishop is likely going to have to sacrifice. I mean, the threat right now is immediate. Is f4 and g6 coming quick enough? I'm not sure your assessment of this position. I go either way. I kind of like white, actually, but
Me too. I think white is better.
it's like I said, 3 pawns on the 6th are often better than a king and a rook. And
Yeah, and white can play e4, d5, e6.
the problem for black is the queen has to get to the pawn chain at the base, has to start eating these pawns from here, and that's a lot of move. That's like 6 moves. So if the queen wants even just to get d4, you're looking at 5-6 moves minimally. And then on the king side, it'd be similar. You got to start at the base here, and it only takes white really 2 or 3 moves to already have winning threats. So it does not look like black is going to be able to, I mean, it's just too slow. But white still has to prove a win.
Yeah, I think just e6 looks okay, but I would start with d5 so that d5, e6, I can trade on e6, taking with the d pawn, the dog pawn, d as in dog.
Yeah, I mean, this might be so good that even without the d pawn, it'd be winning. And
yeah, maybe
this looks winning already. Yeah, that's
yeah. Okay.
okay. So Horace getting
game over.
Wow. With white. I mean, Hode got that win with white, although this one was pretty decisive win. So let's see if Horace could build some momentum and get back in the lead 4-3. Because just this tit for tat, 3 for 3, we're already more than halfway through the match. So one of these two players are going to have to win 2 games in a row in order to win the match. Okay, here we get an early f6.
Yeah, we saw f6 a lot in the match between hod-konem and Horde Coach in 2023.
Now, I know you had done the engine research and even had videos on the holding pattern that was basically just winning for black here. I mean, didn't you even play Hode and win like you in a match like this?
Yeah, I did, but I don't think because of the opening, but more like my style's really good against Konem's style because I see like unnatural moves and he sees natural moves. I don't know.
But I just meant
I
this
have
choice
like
of F6 that
yeah, definitely. We had games like that where opening was okay for both sides, but I had better middle game plans, I guess. I mean, no, my results are like extremely high against hod-konem. I'm like almost like 75% or something, but I think it's more about style.
yeah, and I think I mean this dark square holding pattern. Um, Even though now there's 4 pawns, I think the D file ends up getting thinned here. Even though right now there's 4 pawns, but we're going to see in a few moves here.
Yeah, I mean,
It's going to start clarifying.
yeah, I
That's
mean,
what's
I
going
think
really
he can
quick.
try to play c5 or a5 or something.
Yeah, I mean he's probably going to have to do both of those. He could delay it another few moves. Horus with over a 3-minute, Hode who's used a minute here, so he goes for c5 first, and now the C and D files are thin to 3 pawns each. So the C, D, and E files each have 3 pawns.
Yeah, I mean, the fact
These
that White
choices.
was able to play b4 and b3 means that White made progress.
Yeah, I thought it was better for black than it appears to be now. Because now looking here, it's unclear that he can't just keep advancing on the queen side. That with the queen and bishop, he could force a breakthrough.
Yeah, I mean, there's gonna be probably something really good for White in the center.
Even here, maybe possible. Perhaps he could play a few more moves. He could try something on the king side. Um, I mean, it seems all of these seem possible. Yeah, obviously because he has 3 pawns on the B, C, and D files. That one mistake isn't losing one more pawn isn't fatal in any of them. Okay, so he goes for C5 first. So we might see
I think
shuffle and all these pawns advancing the next few moves.
Horse could have tried bishop f8 maybe because then
Well,
if d4 then bishop takes e2. Oh yeah, that was before White had pawn on c4, so like few moves back. Before White played c4, there would be bishop f8, d4, bishop takes e2.
it was
So
a
I think
1 minute.
move 30. No, sorry.
Well, it was possible that was a tactic we could look through with the computer
Yeah,
after.
move 35, bishop f8.
Okay, on this move, because now if the pawn push, the bishop comes in there, although it's remotely possible that he could allow the bishop to get behind the pawns, or he just missed it. But at this point, the pawns are slowly marching in. It's looking pretty good for white.
Yeah, I think white is much better here
I mean, maybe even going back in
because
the
of
night, A6, he just hasn't thinned anything out. The pawns are just mobile. There's not even really a threat of the breakthrough, and the pawns are just going to keep on pushing. It just looks like GG. It's unclear how it went so wrong for him.
Yeah, I guess it is interesting.
Although here's the breakthrough. So I don't know if that was forced. I mean, obviously he could have maybe, but he got his breakthrough.
Yeah, it's not so clear anymore, actually.
Yeah, I mean, it's too dangerous to. He probably has no other choice, but he's got two rooks and a bishop. Is that enough time? Should the queen try to come this way? That's too ambitious. For the queen, you could still grab these pawns.
I don't know why Horus is like moving so fast in such a dangerous position.
Yeah, it's unnecessary. I'm not sure if that bishop was that bishop sacrifice necessary.
Yes, because of f6 maybe, but although there is still f6 here.
Is this unstoppable? Oh no, then the queen takes here.
6 or something.
Yeah, strategic time management is another question for the match. Consider.
Yeah, I'm expecting queen c3.
I mean, when black resigns, I mean, I guess it's not looking good, but okay, Hode pulling off to a lead again, 4-3. Now we have we started out with 4 black wins, and now we have 3 white wins in a row, and now we got Hode doing a rook shuffle at a5, h5, rook shuffle. So let's see what Horus has in mind. Can he beat the rook shuffle to stay in the match?
Yeah, I mean, it's actually, I feel like Horus is bad against rook shuffle.
Yeah, I mean, like Cinnamon, we'll call the original master of the rook shuffle that rose to world champion. Although when he beat Mindhunter, he actually won with white a few times, probably just due to sloppy prep on Mindhunter's part. And Mindhunter, the years that he beat him, was able to win with white against his rook shuffle also. Although every time Mindhunter was able to get a few wins with white against the rook shuffle, which has been definitive because I guess the computer analysis, the expertise, is that the rook shuffle is likely just winning for black. So although the top
I think
players
it's a draw.
have been able to score wins with white against the rook shuffle in World Championship play. So we switch from the light square strategy to f6. So I don't know if it's like a transposition to more normal f6 lines against the rook shuffles, but it appears kind of open all over the place. So I'm not sure how to assess this. I would assume it's better for black, but not sure. And so you got 3 pawns on each of the central files. Still has the d7 pawn. Likely the center pawns will collapse, or he could advance in the B and G files, allowing a possible open of the H or A files. Although it's very difficult for the black queen to transfer to the king side. So, but at this point, neither of these pawns could advance. I mean, this pawn could conceivably advance along the rook to take on f3, which is occasionally worthwhile. An f6 here could be, the king could safely park here on g6. Although sometimes you could crash through in the center. So both players playing relatively fast, not used much time on their clock at all. And you could also, the problem with the b4 is this pawn on c4. So it looks pretty solid for black. I mean, just because the weakness on c4 is pretty devastating. So unless this is enough, and then on an e6 push, okay, yeah, really e6, he has no choice really other than e6. So presumably, now maybe just pushing c5, because otherwise this is coming.
Man, Khan is just blitzing.
Yeah, I guess there's not necessarily reason. He doesn't need to use his time. This is so winning. Can he basically just shuffle the point to keep the queen pressure on the d5 pawn? That conceivably this is a threat, but probably not enough to give up the d5 pawn, even just reworking the rook here. Okay, so he's willing to give up the c3 pawn, but he doesn't take the c3 pawn. Comes this way. Yeah, I mean, there's still some tricks left for white. It looks pretty devastating. Janika, what up, Doe? Shalom. We got a Detroit friend here. Not sure how many people tuning in, so sorry, a little low energy. The Horde, we're not getting necessarily fireworks on the board for Horde. Although he has gotten a center attack. And the pawn chain is even defendable, presumably, although he has both rooks to sack. So this rook could likely sack somewhere. So this is very likely still winning for, you just question which way does he take?
Yeah, I think it's winning for black because black can sacrifice both rooks on e7 if required.
Yeah, I guess you have a threat of G6, I mean, and of C6. So you got to come up with something to stop both. I mean, obviously Queen E4 might not even work because you could just do one. Although it might be sufficient.
Yeah, there could be a decoy.
Yeah, although your Queen E4, C6, Queen takes pawn, G6, Rook H7. I mean, for nothing. Or maybe the king could come up. Yeah, I mean, Horde still has some chances here. So Hode going into a pretty long think here. Critical position. Can he defend? Hode, can he defend against both C6 and G6? Like I said, what does he do about G6 and C6? Both of them could, either one of those could be a winning. As I see, the only move I could see as of now, Queen E4, and then the decoy C6 might be sufficient, although maybe Rook A7 then.
I was thinking about Rook F4, G6. Sorry, Rook F3, G6, Rook takes F4, G7, King F7, D7, and then I thought there might be like Queen D4 or something, but it still looks losing for black.
The rook here and rook here might be sufficient. I mean, you defend, I mean, against both threats like this. Well, he still hasn't moved. He's, you know, almost thought really 2 minutes in this position. Okay, so we're going to see C3.
There's also C6.
C6 or G6 here. I'm guessing C6. So is it Rook A7? Now, does that hold? Probably. Okay, he takes. Now Queen C4. Hardly any time. He takes. Oh, can't do that because this pawn hangs the queen. No queen here. Is that? I mean, he has to sack the queen.
Remarkable.
I can't tell. This still might be winning for white, although I mean, if the king gets, so it's the 3 pawns. I mean, he probably has to take, but yeah, quite interesting. Tough to assess this. Now this is probably, yeah, that I'm not sure if he played that right. So 5-3, one more win for Hode. And
That's
we will
insane.
have grand finals. So Seraphim Goose. Yeah, this is just a standalone stream for chess. You got to find me on other venues of social media, not my other commentaries, not. So standalone stream with more chess Rune for the Horde World Championships, which if Hode wins here will be, because it's double elimination and Hode was already eliminated once, there will be a grand finale if Hode wins this. So Horus needs to win this and the next one to not be eliminated. And Hode goes for the B6 line, and Horus takes with the knight, and then sides pushes C6, and the queen will snap the pawn here, and we get another holding pattern, I guess. The D pawn. So here we have 3 pawns again on the C, D, and E files. And usually with a B6. So now there's 2 pawns on the C and D files. Like I said, B6 to require another pawn to push on the C file. You could get a bishop and a knight. Sometimes when I play this, I often play F6. Sometimes Rune would probably know better on when you're supposed to play F6 or when not. Or if you could just you fall into the holding pattern from here. And sometimes also it's sufficient. You could even sacrifice like your bishop, knight, and rook and open up the D file. So both players hardly using any time again. As we saw last game, it was like that, and then they almost both used all their time in the end game for a complicated part. So, do you have something to add?
Well, I think it looks kind of better for black because I think the center is a little bit weak, but black has to kind of sit and do nothing.
Yeah, black could probably just shuffle. In the best way, what to shuffle, just king f8, king e8, or even king e7 to add pressure on add defense on f6.
Yeah.
At this point, if d5, he might be able to sack the rook and bishop. That might be premature. It does not look like white will be able to make enough progress on the king side. And obviously, should probably the most logical place for white to operate right now is on the king side. But at some point, it'll hit a hard limit, and white will have to do something in the center of the queen side, which will allow a breakthrough. It's conceivable that he could sack everything right away, although that looks risky and unnecessary. Okay, he goes for it. So is he leaving himself open to the risk of, oh no, there's an immediate breakthrough, f3. However, that allows the fork taking the rook, and minor chances. This looks good for black, although he doesn't have a rook, so he probably has to. He doesn't have to, but because black doesn't have a rook, the knight takes 2 or 3 moves to get from the king side to the queen side, and the king obviously takes quite a few moves. So these queen sides could come quicker than in other circumstances without a rook. Although this pawn dropping, and then the knight's going to be able to get over. So Horus is going to need a win with white. Although, how did you stop that? How did he stop? Could he have played? You missed something there?
Yeah, I think he had b7. Plus, what did I miss? No, he
Yeah,
could have
really,
played b7.
B7 just was winning.
Yeah, they both missed it. Wow. That's
And I don't think
that's
it shouldn't have been winning. I mean, you could have played queen here or anything, or even knight takes. Okay, but he missed it. You know, we could look over later with the computer analysis. There might have been other blunders too, but this should just be easily winning for black. But like I said, there's always tricks or blunders possible. And so now this pawn falls. I mean, queen d8 and just pushing the f pawns an
Horse
easy way
is
to
not
win.
playing well.
Oh, I think it just doesn't really matter, but allowing that seems unnecessary. But yeah, that's, I don't know why it seemed unnecessary to allow that, but I guess it doesn't matter. Can he push this pawn? Easier.
Yeah, but
Because he still has this pawn, it's winning. If he didn't have that pawn, it may not have been winning, but it probably would have been winning also. But yes, Horus.
no, you can just shuffle queen h8, queen d8.
Yeah, I'm not sure about the precision there in Horus's technique, but it worked out. And now we have a must-win situation for Horus with the white pieces. Will we see another rook shuffle? There's been quite a variety in openings on both sides as opposed to sometimes. So Horus goes for the immediate f6. I mean, all these openings are probably advantageous to black.
Yeah, generally, yeah.
Although this, I mean, you could play c6 first. Sometimes black plays c6 first, or after knight d7, c6. Could have played knight takes f6, going back with the knight, and then immediate a6. Okay, so the idea was bishop e7, and then I'm not sure it's going to sack on c6, or it's going to hope for a breakthrough on the king side.
Yeah, he just wants a knight on e7 to sacrifice on c6 with two knights.
So then he's only going to have the bishop left without a clear plan for a breakthrough. So I think white, relative to possibility, this has been a successful opening for white, although there's still a lot of play left in it. And it was a relatively, for white, I think it's been successful opening. And the question is how to play it. Does he take? Does he try for a quick h4, h5, or something on the queen side to make the pawn structure better. Push for d5. So probably smart of Horus using his time. Okay, so he actually takes on g7. And now the bishop could come back to allow the knight to e7. That could either go to g6 or threaten c6. But relatively, I think white has a playable game and is going to be able to advance in all sections of the board. So, even if black does... Okay, black could maybe still try to force a breakthrough, sacking on c6 and then sacking on a5. And so you have immediate threat of taking on a6 with the bishop. Although the kingside attack is relatively advanced, and the queen is going to take a move or two to get to the a file, so there's still quite a bit of play in this game. I might even give a slight advantage to white, and obviously white needs to win. I guess a draw. I think a draw has tiebreak still.
Yeah, I think they can play up to like 8-7 before they do Armageddon, but I'm not sure. I haven't checked the rules, but I think those are the old rules.
I mean, 5.5, 4.5 doesn't win the match. It has to be by 2.
I think that. Okay. Yeah, I wouldn't know.
This looks good for white. Like, I'm not... I guess the queen... Even if the queen's getting through, it's so slow, and like, so these pawns are coming quick, and there's very little black can do to slow down the advance of the kingside pawns. I mean, you might as well go for it. So, I mean, it's going to take 5 moves, just to get behind these pawns.
Yeah, I mean, this whole rook h7, rook g7, rook h7 thing is just going to allow white to accelerate his positional time.
Yeah, so we have
the speed of his attack.
Probably your next 4 moves are going to see something like that. Although an immediate sack on... Yeah, that's... hard to see. I mean, I guess black's may have assessed his position as quite desperate to do that, but now this is looking extremely winning for white. I mean, 4 pawns on 6th rank. The queen hasn't even... so now the queen's coming back, and there's not really even a sacrifice. Okay, so we are going to likely see overtime. I think he's going to be able to defend the pawn. So
yeah,
maybe
this is
right away. Yeah, so that's even better, because now he's not... Now he has to move the queen in a way that the pawn could take there. So a nice tech on this one. Horst had good technique. Okay, so we will have overtime. There'll be some stalemate threats, but Okay, so we are in overtime. Looks like there is no mods or directors, so Dude and Matvey, the official tournament directors, are not available, not present. So, um, just two unofficial Horde enthusiastic players, promoters of the game, Duvid and Rune, giving some commentary. So, will we get a crab this game? Will he play that? No, so he does play f6. Does he? Okay, he goes for knight g6. So do we get? So we don't
Yeah,
have a.
so it looks like a crab.
Well, the crab would have had a d5 and c6. So it's a similar type.
Yeah.
Structure, although in this case the knight is going to be able to likely get to d7 and sacrifice on f6. The purpose of the crab is usually to prevent that. Although something, they're both playing extremely quickly, these openings. I'm not sure quite the logic on either side of them and blitzing out these opening moves. Although I think this is okay for white.
Yeah, I prefer white, honestly.
It's unclear. I mean, maybe bishop here. Let's see. What's he do? He may not even have to sack the rook, but there may not be any benefit to. Yeah, so there's still play. Black will get his breakthrough. The queenside pawns are not advanced at all. The center is somewhat mobile, but with the bishop, yeah, so Horus might be able to take a lead and then one more white for a final victory, but there's still play. Hode you has some powerful play in the center and on the queen side, and even conceivably on the king side. I mean, Hode could conceivably even try to work on the king side instead of slowly advancing the queen side, because the queen side pawns, although that's where the biggest bulk is slow, would take multiple moves. So does he play e7? I mean, might as well. If he plays e7, does he take queen f3? Is it better queen f3?
I think it would be better not to play queen f6 because, well, I mean, the rook is just better. I don't know. Bishop can also be good, though, for defense, so it's hard to say.
How quickly can these pawns... This is looking good for white, and
yeah,
I mean, even if black could get all of these pawns for the rook, just the D through A file may be sufficient. Although,
yeah, I mean, white will build a strong dark chain like after d6, and I think there's nothing black can do.
well, white's probably going to have to advance the A and B pawns for the victory, and it gets low. So, Horus has his time, but he probably just has to start eating these pawns and sack the rook and hope that the queen can get behind the pawns. Okay, so he even goes for the pawns on the... So you can always just play king here with the threat of rook sacks if he plays d5. Okay, so now he probably has to sack. He doesn't have.
Yeah, but rook sack is also like winning endgame for white.
Maybe if he could have got the d6 pawn, but he's not. Yeah, if he could sack the rook for the e5 pawn. I mean, still white is likely to have this defended pawn chain, and eventually. So I mean, it's like I said, eventually the rook might get all these pawns. Like I said, the rook is coming through, and now the queenside pawns are going to start advancing. He probably has to go there. You can't get away with taking and allowing e6, e7.
It's interesting that Conem created a dark chain and then he created a light chain.
I'm not sure about, because now is that quick enough? Yes, the threat of taking on d5. I guess there's no hurry. Or could even try taking. And there's the threat of now b6 and a7. Can black just not move? And is white and zugzang? The black may not even have to take here, but he does. Okay, and b6 doesn't work because taking on c3 will defend a8.
Yeah, I actually don't know. I don't know how to evaluate, but okay, I don't like queen b3. I think that's a blunder because of b6, but oh wait, no, there's queen c6, so actually Horus is winning. Wow.
Okay, wow. Yeah. We will see if Horus comes on afterwards or wants to go through these games, or if you want to go through these games quickly after. So Hode with a must-win situation in black to stay in this, or else Horus will be back-to-back Horde world champion.
Yeah, this is looking very winnable for Horus. Although Horus is playing white, so we'll see.
Okay, so are we going to see h6 here? h5. Do we get a crab finally?
I guess not.
We can get f6. So we had this opening before.
He wants that bishop takes e4 again. Yeah, that was nice.
Yeah, so he played h5 last time. Bishop takes e4. So this time he takes the bishop, and presumably the h file will be cracked. Whether what black's best strategy to crack the h file, but white will have a queenside attack, and we have a game like this. So he goes for the immediate f6. and Horus allows the immediate breakthrough. The old original heuristic, okay, and even sacrifices the knight right away just for one pawn. The old heuristic of Cinnamon in the beginning of Horde theory was if you break through before move 20, it's usually sufficient after move 20, although that's just a general loose heuristic. So Horus has substantial potential with a queenside attack. The d-file only has 2 pawns. We're likely to see a queenside castle coming soon.
Yeah, does Cinnamon say that about white or black? Like, who is fine after move 20 breakthrough?
And so if black breaks through before move 20, it's usually winning for black. It's like a dividing line. So after, I mean, it wasn't a hard and fast rule. Like before move 20, black was winning. After move 20, white is winning. But you're just a general heuristic that seems accurate.
Yeah, but time is secondary because I think it's more about position of the pieces because sometimes time is just like not a factor really in terms of where the pieces are. Except for white, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, it was an early heuristic in Horde theory before, any of the engines or serious computer analysis. But it's still a semi-useful heuristic. Obviously, for more advanced player, has to be tuned to the position. So here, black could just shuffle and force white, presumably to play. 1 of these 3 moves is going to be played. So black does not keep the holding strategy. So probably here. So now you have like an umbrella pawn. Is that deadly? Or pawn coming
Well, I
here?
think it's okay.
And this pawn is really getting in black's way. Okay, but he didn't have to take the bishop pawn. And now...
Yeah, I guess if d6 instead of take f8, then I guess there's queen f6.
Yeah, this looks holding for black, so might see another round of 2 more games, but let's see. Maybe just trades everything and pushes b5.
Well, you can't take the pawn, but now it's passed, so I guess black wins pretty easily.
There's always minor potential in these positions. So, b6, c7. Is this winning? Oh no, because the rook.
Well, if ba7, then rook a6.
Although it still looks like it might be winning even with defending.
I think no, I think black wins because queen c6 and then take a b6. Okay. Wow, 6-6.
Okay, some serious overtime here. Horus with d6 is going to be at a5. So okay, so not going immediately into a holding pattern. We have a straightforward classical attempt for opening the H file with a few trades on the queen side. So let's see how Hode tries to handle this and do the opposite of just sacrificing the pawn on f5 and pushing e4. Okay, so instead of the H file attack, Horus decides to thin the D file down to 2 pawns, the C and E files down to 3 pawns. So presumably Horus will set up some sort of holding fortress structure designed to create a opening in the center, although he sacrifices on a6. Sometimes that is not the best idea if the goal is to create a hole in the center that you don't want to waste your piece sacrificing for 2 pawns on the a file. But here it's probably still sufficient, although it could be in the other game that Horus lost for black that might have been a mistake. So let's see how Horus tries to set up his fortress here.
Did they both miss bishop takes b4, or maybe it's okay for white?
Yeah, I guess the c3 pawn is overworked, and he could have. Yeah, so it's no longer there. But yeah, I would have presumed if he saw that he probably would have done that, or maybe not. And you could see possibly attack coming this way. And you okay, prevents the entry.
Oh, he could try knight c5, but I guess in the grand scheme of things, it's still really good for white.
Yeah, it's not necessary, but if the knight comes back to c6, okay, so now this is a breakthrough threat. So if he takes the knight, he's breaking through with the bishop. So he allows that. So bishop takes, oh, he blocks bishop takes a3. Okay, but presumably he's going to be able to break through him, and just queen and rook attacking on c3 is probably sufficient. He doesn't go for that. I mean, he could just bring the rook to d8 and wait to eventually sacrifice. So I would say this is advantageous for black, although sometimes just the H through E file is sufficient. So even to create a winning attack, like E6.
I much prefer white because just the strong f6 pawn.
He almost has to play here to keep the queen out. Here, this way. Okay, so queen coming to c8. So like the other time, Hode will... No, he won't be able to keep his d pawn. I mean, he could keep the d pawn and allow the pawn to capture on e5. I doubt that's the case. Okay, he does keep the d pawn like that. So does Hode have time? Does Horus have time to eat the pawns at the base with the queen?
Well, black will have to hold. I guess Horus will have to hold. Going on a pawn hunt will just allow white to play e5 and stuff.
Yeah, so just waiting for the queen to take e4 might be sufficient. There's really not much that white could do. And once the pawn on e4 drops, I mean, at some point you're going to have g6.
Yeah, g6 could work. I was also thinking d6, but I think g6 is good.
Yeah, g6 is, I mean, it's going to have to be played eventually. So he does go for d6 first. Does he? Okay, he takes it and allows f4. So I mean, he could have. He didn't have to take it. Well, he did.
But now there's queen d1 and the hitting g4, right? So maybe white should have played h3 before playing this d6 move. But I don't know.
Yeah, just one tempo, but and maybe the rook is well placed here on c7, better than c8. So he probably has no choice but to... Well, the horse has a full minute. He might as well use it, but it's allowing... Does he play... I'm not sure. Is queen here? Was that... It's tough to know that. I mean, and Hode is very low on time if this is defendable.
Yeah, I think hod-konem is definitely winning.
He might have to play g4 and then c7, g7.
Yeah, that could work.
Okay, 7-6. Some serious overtime. Horus needs a white win to stay in the match. Will we see another rook shuffle?
Like we see. Yeah, exactly.
I think Hode won the last rook shuffle. He did the... Horus did a delayed f6.
Oh, and he's doing it again.
I always thought, man, if you remember, I think the first game we played, I beat you with f6, and that was right after like Mindhunter played f6 in the World Championship for the first time. And then we played. I copied Mindhunter's f6 and got you the first time. But f6 turns out to be an inferior, one of the more inferior. It's playable. So I'm not sure if the g6 makes it better or changes up the strategy.
Yeah, I do remember that game. That was fun. I mean, I think Yeah, I agree. I think
Came up with
f6
a
is
winning
kind of.
strategy. But yeah, I mean, the world championship one year, was if it was Mindhunter Cinnamon, Mindhunter won the world championship with the f6 against the rook shuffle that one year, and then eventually it was probably you who did the research on with the crazy Ara to definitively bust the f6. But I'm gonna say I think the f6 was the most busted of all of the lines against the rook shuffle. I'm not sure, although usually g6 is not played first.
Yeah, but I think g6 only makes it worse, honestly.
Yeah, this isn't
Just
looking good.
because. Yeah. Yeah, center is destroyed.
Of all the decisions that may have been his best decision, I guess. But maybe just knight d7. Neither one of them has used much time at all.
Yeah, knight d7, rook f6 are both good moves, I believe.
The rook f6. And then you're going to have he does that, and presumably he's got do pawn takes rook, and then he could really just sit on this pawn. Okay, I guess d6 is not available to immediately attack the f4 pawn. It's not necessary for victory, and it's unclear whether white even wants to play e4. I mean, he's going to have to eventually. And now the bishop could safely come back to d6. He doesn't choose that defense. Okay, but the knight. So he's going to have to go for... Well, nothing's defended, so... Something's going to give here soon. It looks like we're going to see a grand final rematch, a grand final 20-game match between Horace and Hode for the World Championship. He doesn't have to sacrifice on f4.
I actually predicted 7-5, and we have 8-6, so very close prediction. But yeah.
Yep, I mean, obviously Horace is last year's champion and had a higher rating, but you had the feel that Hode was coming in, the momentum was in his favor, and it appears you're right, although there's still some play left. He could probably just play queen takes pawn, and there's basically all she wrote. We'll see if there's those pawns are really, really slow far up the board. Like I said. Okay, so there you have it. Let's see if Horace or Hode wants to join for an interview. So any thoughts on the match?
Well, at first I was confused why they are playing really sloppy some of the games in the middle before they kind of started increasing their discipline and finding better moves. But then I understood that it's really late in Russia. Maybe, I mean, they're both in Russia, right? So maybe they're really tired and they don't care much or something about this match if just because of the time of day. Because I thought there were a lot of sloppy moments like for both of their level. I was surprised.
Yeah, I mean, someone could be playing on a cell phone, or just the nature of, okay, it is the World Championship. These are, from the top Horde players in the world, but it is just a chess variant, and how much is in it. So I messaged them both the StreamYard link. I'm not sure if Horace is going to pop on. If neither of them pops on, hopefully Rune or Matve or both will be available for the grand final stream, because it is a double elimination and Horace has only been defeated once. So there will be another grand final, which will be a 20-game match, which has happened in previous years, although many years it was not necessary for a grand final. So did you want to go over the games with the computer, or do you want to just give some final words and call it a wraps?
I'm happy to go over the games. Yeah, we can turn on the computer if you want, but yeah, human plus computer integrated analysis.
Okay, so the first game, the GFX F6. Okay, so here, if A5 strategically, I'm not sure if at some point, I mean, computer's hovering with some, but I guess black gets the breakthrough on the A file, and at some point it's actually, even though when we were watching it, it looked like white might have had an advantage somewhere, actually black was basically winning the whole time.
Well, I think white is almost winning after move 6 gf6. I think Horace messed up the move order. I think he wanted move 6 knight takes d5 and move 7 gf6. I think that's what he wanted.
Yeah, I mean, if you look, GFX6 is over 75% white winning advantage. Although Horace has played this with black multiple times, so it is possible he purposely went into this line. And he's even been playing this line recently against Matve. So even if it was a disadvantageous line, it's possible that was his prep to go into that disadvantageous line. And it appeared to work. So Horace had white the second game. Immediate F6. Central attack. Eventually, okay, you saw that tactic before it happened. Eventually, black did not have to force the breakthrough. He got that tactic and the breakthrough, and white's queenside attack never materialized. You might have looked a tad bit dangerous, although it wasn't really. Black was easily winning the whole time.
Okay, yeah, so some of the the first and last games, first couple and last couple of games are kind of decided by the opening, I guess, but the middle games are actually really complex with a lot of chances later on.
even if you and Matvey want to do a deeper analysis and then do a stream with a deeper analysis later, it'd be a good idea. So at least give a peripheral analysis and check the computer. So game 3, Hode does an immediate A5, and Horus goes for a dark squared holding pattern, but decides to sack on A6. And at some point, it looked like things might have went in white's favor, like black's kind of fooling around, going to the king side, then the queen side. But no, looks like black was. So did white have an advantage here for a second? It's unclear. But then at this point, it's
For me, your screen is frozen, but your webcam is not frozen. It's just your computer screen. Perfect. I see it now. Yeah, I think, yeah, hod-konem messed up earlier. Probably should have won the end game.
okay. I got in my PC's. I don't know. It's overheating, but yeah, it might hot, so it might have slowed down there.
Yeah, it could also be tabs. I see you have like a lot of tabs on the browser. Like, I don't know if maybe something's loading, hogging up the cache maybe.
Yeah, I might just switch to just my MacBook, so we don't have this issue. So I'm gonna shut off the. Okay, I'm sorry. Just take me 1 second. I'll pop it up from
Okay.
my MacBook. Okay, so game 3, we looked through that. It was pretty clean win with black. White had a few chances where he might have been equal or could have got an advantage, but he wasn't able to. And this is the last of our black wins. We didn't get a crab in any of these senses. So this was interesting here. Hode goes for knight g6. The computer doesn't like it at all, but it wants what we get played in the later game, exf5, and allowing, but instead he plays h5, allowing this tactic of bishop takes e4. Pretty clever. Has this been played? Is that new? Bishop takes e4. I don't know if it's prep or from a different line. It does not appear to be an opening book.
Yeah, it's I've never seen this either.
Yeah, this didn't seem necessary. So, black could have probably just found some waiting strategy. That sacrifice was unnecessary. Yeah, and like you said, he should have just taken the rook. That was the best option, although black is still probably winning. Not taking the rook allows this, which was just a pretty easy victory. Okay.
Yeah, it's it's kind of funny, like a lot of these games, or a lot of these moves, like I would never play, but I don't see anything wrong with the moves they play sometimes.
Yeah, and and still relatively speed chess. So now we have 2-2, all black wins. These next three games are white wins. Horus tries for a light squared holding pattern, and so this is just a blunder, like you said, when was played, and this tactic should just be winning. So it's really just devastating. Somehow white won this game. I think it was just the one move.
Yeah, I think this endgame is unclear.
No, it was just a one move and blunder towards the end. I mean, obviously, if he could have got the deep one, but even here, okay, so Queen G3 better than
Queen G3 because there's no. Yeah, stops G5. I guess that's why.
Oh yeah, that's just devastating. Here, then there's nothing. But still, this should be winning.
That's very true.
So say Rook A5 was better. Okay, so here it goes wrong. Now it's losing.
Yeah.
Although
yeah, but Horus had like
here,
1 second.
Although here it's back, so he plays the wrong move. Queen X. Yeah, so multiple blunders. Yeah, he just has a few seconds. He makes a few blunders, and after this, it's all over. And then you have your first white victory.
Yeah, instead of Queen F4, there's like Rook G3, E5, and then Queen sacrifice E5, and that should win for black.
Maybe time management. He has 30 seconds. So we didn't get an interview with Horus to maybe some sort of insight what was going through his mind.
It's 5:13 a.m. in Russia, I guess, in like Moscow.
Yeah, so this one.
I wonder why 2 Russians played so late.
Yeah, and they're the ones who picked the time. I mean, I almost wasn't even going to stream it, but I just for promote the game. But yeah, this one was a pretty clean victory for white. And then the last of our white victory, Hode 3-3 now. I'm not sure about F6 here. Doesn't seem the normal structure. Used to even have like but even that should be okay.
I mean, I would have traded off the black E pawn at some point as black.
Yeah. Yeah, here it's. Although, I was about to say there's no coming back, but like all of a sudden, he did come back. So, yeah, Queen X E2 seems more logical to try to eat the pawns coming this way.
Yes.
And he actually had plenty of time, and now white should be easily winning again. Okay, and this is where Hode comes. He's up 4-3, and then this rook shuffle to a 5-2 lead. Yeah, so this f6 line. I'm not signed in now, so I can't see the opening book. But he ended up losing 2 games in this line. I'm not sure if he prepped for the rook shuffle in this line. Not do so well.
Yeah, somehow Rook Shuffle kind of lost popularity. I assume because people find it boring or something. Because Horus used to like have a better plan against a Rook Shuffle, but I guess it's been lost and forgotten.
Yeah, so rook h7 was the better of the defenses. So here,
Yeah, because
although was g6 any better? No, so it looks like it was sufficient.
yeah, the reason this is lower is because the queen gets sacrificed, but it's still winning for black.
Okay, but Horus was able to win 3 in a row to get to overtime. Here we have a more classical b6 line, and
Yeah, sacrifice in d5 looks kind of bad. Looks kind of bad in the opening.
yes, I'm not sure why I didn't play d5 right away, or if it matters. So computer said white's better if it just goes for the queen side right away. Like I was mentioning, because he only has a knight, not a rook. The knight can't even get over. The king takes a lot of moves to get over. But it appeared the queen side attack was the winning idea. And he actually has a whole bunch of time. This would have won the match. So he had almost this full time here, wasn't using it. And then at this point, black is just winning.
Yeah, but then Horus blundered b7.
I missed that. Yeah, so here was the b7. Yeah, king d7, just a huge blunder, allowing the one move b7, unstoppable queening. And even with almost a full 3 minutes on the clock, he only used a few seconds and missed that. And that was just the one move abnormality, and here you have easy win.
Yeah, I think it happened because it's so late in Russia.
Okay, so Horus now has this must-win situation with white, and then here going back to b8, and then the immediate bishop e7 and taking on g7.
Yeah, that was really interesting by Conan.
It looked like white was just fine, and then he's eventually forcing open the A file, but it's just too slow. And then even this bishop, yeah, it was just a nice, clean, devastating win. And then we have overtime. In the first overtime game, Horus gets a quick, easy win with black. Or is it easy? Okay, computer actually likes the queen f6.
Yeah, it's interesting. I know Horde Coach also, he prefers to keep bishops for defending. Um, like, he'll sacrifice a rook just to keep the bishop.
Yeah, so is c4.
Yeah, just to push d7 and e6.
Okay, so now black is still, yes, just f7 completely unnecessary. Not sure why he did that. He has plenty of time.
Well, f7, I liked f7, but yeah, I thought this was good for white.
Yeah, I guess still good, still fine. Something goes wrong here. So a. Okay, so here's
Oh,
b4.
because okay, nice. But if queen b4, it's not clear to me. Is it oh, you want a3 and b4. So you're kind of you're building a skeleton. Um, well, I don't know. Yeah,
I
because
mean,
queen
eventually you're going to
c4
get
still
b6
has
there.
b6.
I mean, the idea is that b6 is going to be the winning move, and a6 um, slows it down. So now he's a5, and
I
now
mean,
c8.
a6 is for preparing the stronger version of b6, but it takes time.
Oh, that's funny. The a5 is winning here, the
Yeah,
umbrella.
because yeah,
I mean,
because
because
there will
queen here, then you
be.
have pawn here. No, then you have ax b6.
It's because queen c6 runs into b7.
He actually has a lot of time to figure this out, but he didn't use the time blitzing it out.
Yeah.
And so now we have 6-5 for Horus, and then Hode wins these last 3 games. Okay, computer likes this line for black. It does not like taking an f6. I didn't like that. I wasn't sure. Taking an f6 didn't really make sense to me.
Well, he
With
just
that.
wants. If he plays like g6, then there's fe5 and rook h2.
Okay, so maybe he has no
And white
choice.
cannot play g6.
Okay, his counterplay just. There's a little bit of excitement, but yeah, I guess rook e8, everything's completely fine. And especially with that past e pawn, there's nothing.
And he found nice simplification, yeah.
Okay. Yeah, it doesn't like a6 here at all. I'm sure. I mean, you said the tactic.
Yeah, it doesn't like a6 because it exclusively likes bishop takes b4 and it hates everything else.
Yeah, so he missed that tactic. And he's still breaking through. just choose a. Was there something better here? No, it's just white.
I doubt it. Any like material sacrifice is gonna just help white.
Yeah, it didn't matter.
Yeah.
Okay, in the final game, with another and another G6 F6 attempt that really didn't. This was just devastating. White had nothing.
I have a conspiracy theory that hod-konem is on a flipped sleep schedule, and so he somehow convinced Horus to play at a time that's good for Konem and bad for Horus. Because I feel like Horus was kind of sloppy and Konem was really sharp, except when he was moving too fast.
Yeah, we didn't get any interviews. I guess Horus, Matvey are anonymous. Hode is not anonymous. And we have a Russian-Ukraine matchup. I think Horus, Matvey are also both Russian, although they might, whatever their personal information, it's not necessary for, they're the top players, but there is something going on where you got the three, the first, second, and third are all Russian, Ukrainian. So, they're we got some people trying to be anonymous or not wanting to give out that much information about themselves for various reasons, or they might be young or in school, is the nature of variants. There's not big prize funds or glory for being the best, and often the best are younger people, and sometimes those younger people are, God forbid, caught up in the middle of like war-torn countries or conflicts and have reasons to want to remain anonymous. So unfortunately, we didn't get any interviews. There's also a language issue. From my knowledge, Hode doesn't speak English. So Horace speaks
Right.
English last year. I mean, I offered to have a translator in the grand finals if he wins. Hopefully we will get interviews and we can have a translator, but you weren't able to set that up. And obviously it wasn't scheduled well. They scheduled the time just a few hours before and then kept on delaying it. So, not the type dignity that a Horde World Championship deserves, but I guess like World War II or different circumstances, God forbid the best players are from, countries at war. So did our best to make do with the circumstances. So appreciate Rune for helping with the commentary. Anything you want to say? Final words, message? For, go for it.
Well, I would love to see Horus and hod-konem like interview the grand finals, and because I guess Horus could act as a translator for hod-konem, but
Well, Matvey volunteered,
Monty, yeah.
because they kept on delaying it. Matvey wasn't able to keep on staying up. He was going to give commentary and translation, so hopefully Matvey would be available for translation for the finals.
Yeah, that would be great if we could get all of us. I mean, we're all like, well, I shouldn't say about myself, but I consider like all of us like elite players in the elite tier. Me, Konem, Matvey, and Horus. And I mean, others have shown interest like Kiwi. I mean, I think we could all make it happen and do commentary or interview.
I like Horde enough that, like, I would say, I spoke to more, it was already years ago, where you talked about writing a book and if you made progress. But I like Horde enough just to stream in advanced theory or promote the game. Although I think, considering the times chess is in a relative decline and variants are in a larger decline because there's so it's unclear that you're gonna see massive growth or anything, especially like Horde. Although there's a niche of people who play, and there's a lot of people who put a lot of thought into it. And yeah, there are elite players. There are Rune, who's a top 10 player, who's almost made the finals, never actually made the finals, but almost made the finals for the world championship. I was never, at best, I made it into the top 10, barely. But like I said, I consider myself a second tier, at least good for commentary. I'm probably still in the top 50. But I was glad to have a top 10 player add commentary. And the circumstance, we got Russian players. It is what it is. They're the best. So I'm happy to give them their voice or their due for putting the work and a victory. And then if after people want to do more streams like analysis and theory, obviously Rune for a period of time had one of the best channels, like tens, almost 100 videos of Horde theory, a lot of it running the engine. I'm not sure anyone's doing it right now, and there's diminishing returns to put that kind of effort into the variant. Obviously, if someone does watch this and wants to like donate money or something, that would probably be the biggest thing to, like a $500, $1,000 prize fund might grow the game, might encourage streaming. So, if anyone watches this and wants to work together towards next year's World Championship, donating some money or streaming, could reach out. So with that, when they schedule the finals, hopefully we'll have another big stream for that, and maybe we'll have more commentators. That one should be 20 games, and then after that, maybe if Matvey, if you want to do some theory streams, we'll see about that. So appreciate Rune tuning in. Anyone who watched, anyone who sees this in future reference, see the current state of the game. So I'll let Rune close it off with any final words if you want.
Yeah, so I guess I did like a 180 flip because I used to just share everything I knew about Horde to the entire community for free, and now I'm doing the opposite. That's why like I never publish a book, because I have like 100 to 110 pages of Horde stuff that I've been writing about. But I just don't even want to continue writing the book anymore because I I don't want to share any secrets because no, I've just haven't been able to play these like lead chess tournaments and stuff that so I don't want to if I can play someday I want to keep those secrets to myself until I could play lead chess Horde Championship or something. But with all that being said, yeah, it's always interesting to see what Horus and hod-konem and Mot-V come up with, and it's always exciting to watch these games. And I mean, I have great respect for all of these players because like it takes creativity to kind of squeeze a win out of an objectively losing position, like if you have white or something and you get like a standard opening. So yeah, it is sad that I haven't been able to play, but it's been a pleasure to commentate and to follow championships. Absolutely.
Okay, yeah, hopefully you'll be able to join also for the finals. Hopefully we'll get a little bit more advance warning, like if they schedule the finals like a week in advance and put the stream. Otherwise, if I'm available, I will give commentary and be happy to have any Rune or any of the other Horde experts join me. So thanks again to Rune. Thanks for the players. Thanks for everyone tuned in. And hopefully we'll see you soon for the grand finals.
Yeah, thank you, Duvid.